significance again. Try to make it short. What we've heard pretty often is sort of like it's summed up in two things, which it is love Father and love your neighbor as yourself. But the teaching is, it goes in that direction of, oh, that's it. It's just like an idea in your head, and I've mentioned this a lot before. Just an idea, theology in people's heads. There's no care or love for truth or, learning what this means. You can't love our Creator if you break, the commandments, and especially the first four. And then the last six is loving your neighbor as yourself. So like the first four is how to love the Creator, and then the next six are, how to love your neighbor as yourself. And then to go even further than that, this is the way I see it now. I've seen it for a while now. A summary of everything. This is His commandments. They're at the top, the center of everything, and they're all important, all 10, obviously. And then that's not every little thing for how to live, because life is a lot more complex than just the 10 commandments. But it is if you keep these, then you love the Father and you love your neighbor as yourself. And you can't keep these truly if you're breaking a bunch of other things, spiritually, physically, with your mind and your body. Like sexual sins, you don't sin. All the other sins you sin with your hand, outside of, but then, like we read, the sexual ones, you sin against your own body. So, these are all important. And, we do the best we can and learn how to keep whatever time we're in for each individual. We just do the best we can and learn because we want to. That's why, not because we believe it saves us. That's the primary thing that saves us, is how good we keep His commandments and laws. And only believing that, and this is what I see as the Pharisees truly believing in their heart. They became of that spirit where it was all about that and showing people how, like my last video, but I'm trying to do this in a short video, outwardly, Messiah did not teach, even though these are true words, that it's reduced to two things, and now there's nothing behind it. There's no weight. There's no, all the other commandments hang on these two, but it's as if they're by themselves, and that these don't, they're still hanging right there. You can't just throw them away. That's the same with any of His commandments. So some people, they might not see something that they need to see just yet, but at least they're acknowledging that, at least they don't believe that you're supposed to. They might be ignorantly doing something wrong, but they're not teaching at least to break the commandments. You have to grow. There's quite a few verses on growing. Nobody becomes a literally perfect saint overnight, but at least be one and like-minded in what the truth is. And we can't even have that. We don't have that with the church world. They're not on the same page spiritually with His word, because there's certain things that pop out that I've seen that I've never seen before, and that's how it is with His word. For me that day, I saw something I didn't see, and that's how it is for someone else. One of those major things is He told the believers in the Father, right? They said they believed, the Pharisees, religious people. If you don't believe in Moses, how can you believe in me? And to believe in him is to, that's not an empty, dead word. It's also to do. It's more than just an idea in your head to believe in him. So Messiah is saying and claiming that they don't believe in him and can't believe in him because they reject Moses. And the last thing that anybody would say is that the Pharisees reject Moses, because that's all they represented in their, it's what people believed. They sat in Moses' seat and taught the law, right? Who on earth would say he doesn't believe it? But see, he knew what was going on in their heart, and their intentions were all wrong, and they added and took away, and then they didn't keep the spiritual, the weightier matters of the law. They put those aside and made the small ones into something legalistic and huge above the other things. And there's obviously the teaching, there are exceptions sometimes. So when something else is more important than the other at the moment, the other can be put away for a second. It's not that you would do that normally, just that this exists. And that was true. It's true for the Sabbath day too. You don't become crazy and insane about it like they were. So super righteous, So it's more about the heart on keeping this Sabbath. There's a true way and a false way. And people actually use Messiah's words that Sabbath wasn't made for man, but man for Sabbath. Or is it backwards? Sabbath wasn't made for man, but man for Sabbath. And I think I had it right. They use that to prove that he did away with it, which is, for people that are new, seeking truth, it does confuse people. It sounds good at first. As you learn more, study more, you can actually see more clearly on how that's just not a true statement at all. He did no such thing, and he kept it himself. But he didn't keep it the way they did, more about the heart, allowing our Creator to speak to you and how you do whatever it is you do with your mind and heart. Let him be the guide or teacher on how to live, even the details. And this is what Messiah did, And they had sort of like it was reduced to a checklist, like of hard rules. Then keeping these, putting a check mark next to it makes them holy and righteous, but that's not the truth. Someone receives righteousness because they receive his righteousness, not our own. Abraham believed, and because he believed, he acted too. They're one thing. Can't divide them. But it wasn't because Abraham was of himself righteous or look how good I am. It's because he had faith. That's why. This was counted for righteousness, and then this faith, this real faith, does something, and that's counted for righteousness. Those that don't have the true faith, it won't do. And then it's not counted for righteousness because they're putting on their own righteousness on. It's teaching how to live, and if that want isn't there, then it's all vanity. That want has to be there in the first place. And so that want is not there for people that don't have the Spirit. They protect and love their idea of religion and denomination, what they believe and what they stand for. They do love that and protect that, but when it comes to the weightier things, the true way to live, put it aside and make small carnal things a huge deal, like the church world denomination I grew up in. divided and created its own name, new building, and division. A group percentage of the people, the less, because of the color of clothes, suits, was changing from black to something else, like gray. Which is sort of a spiritual, strange thing that, oh, lighter colored clothes. We have to stay black and dark. I see something more than just the clothes. Um, and people express this. When people are into all that darkness, they wear black all the time, and you'll see it in Hollywood and stuff. They commonly like to wear all black, and I don't know that I can say that all by itself is like wrong or something, but I'm just making a connection. They're dark, but anyways, and beards. This denomination allowed beards for men for the first time since its inception in '95, and that was just a huge sin. No, we can't have that. So they literally divided and created another denomination with a new name and a new building because of those two major things there. See, that's not very spiritual. Instead of speaking about the weightier matters, maybe like the commandments and the greater commandments, how to live, we're talking about clothes and beards and making that a huge deal to divide over. And all kinds of other things, which with each one having its own unique problems and things within the, assembly. When something's fake, it's no good. It counts for nothing. It's fake. It's fraudulent. Like, imagine someone fake loving you, and you know it's fake. What is that? It's not real, that's for sure. They're faking it. What if you're like, for a couple, one is just faking it all the time? How long is that going to last? Or what if the parents just fake love their kids, only to look like they care, and that's it? So why, this is the same with people and our Creator. They're faking, so many of them, and it's no good. It's gross. It's vomit, and it gets puked out. So people put focus on small things and make them big, and then they throw away the big things and turn them into nothing. And they're so quick and happy to talk about this and show people in the, some verses about how it all went away and was changed, contradicting what Messiah said, that he didn't come to do away with even the least of these commandments. And those that teach to break the least of these commandments will be least in the kingdom. Even stressing on exactly what people are doing. Well, why is this surprising? It shouldn't be surprising. Whatever he says, they're doing and teaching the perfect opposite. I didn't come to take away or break. I came to fulfill, truly live it. This is the example. And those that teach to break the least of these commandments is least. Which connects to those that are faithful in little are also faithful in much. And you could say the opposite thing. Those that are not faithful with little are not faithful with much. There's a connection there spiritually. People that throw away even the small things, they're not going to care about the big things. It's just not possible. That's because that's a true teaching. If someone throws away all the little things, they will not be able to care about the bigger things. You would think they would. People believe they do, but it's not what Messiah taught. He said those who are faithful in little are also faithful in much. So to be faithful in much, you have to be faithful with the small things too, then. The details also. At the same time, not creating your own religion and putting these things above other things. They all have their place. And I don't think we're not given like a list of all the greatest to the least like this, but I think the Ten Commandments are maybe a little bit of an example of that. The first four are all about the Creator, and then the other six are all important. And if we use it as like a list, the fourth commandment's fourth. It's not even on the bottom. But I see them as all important. All 10 of them know. If they could just understand that you can't love the Creator and love your neighbor as yourself if you break a bunch of other things spiritually or whatever, and do away with them. That's not loving the Creator. Or that's not loving your neighbor if you're doing something and being an example to your neighbor that's against truth, breaking commandments, then you're not loving your neighbor even though you think you are. And that goes against what people say because they go based on feelings. Like, I'm nice to them and that's it. But we know the fakery of all that, though. People that are nice to others, most of them are just faking it. And it's not even that it's bad to be nice or something. It's just they're not seeing it. They really believe that he came to do away with everything and just replace it with two things. Then they forget all the other words he said too. All the other many words. All the words about money and stuff. Aren't those his words too? That never go away. So how hardly a rich man enters the kingdom. Well, it's going to be exactly what Scripture says. It's very rare and how hardly that someone that's filthy rich breaks through spiritually. They're going to be carnal and it's going to be a trap. And I don't put numbers or do that kind of game stuff, like they, I think, would be so quick to do. Well, how much is too much, The only reason they ask those kind of questions is to trap you because they don't like the true teaching. Don't forget that, and don't let them play games like that. That's what I'm seeing, because that's what they did to the Messiah over and over again. They didn't care about the actual truth. They just wanted to be right and him be wrong and him be a sinner and them not be sinners. That's all. And they wanted to show it. And in the end, they even had to pretty much admit they had no reason to kill him. They really didn't have anything on him, and they still wanted him dead because of blasphemy. They had to make something up. Yeah, he blasphemes. No, that's what they do. That's what you people do that hate Messiah. That's what they did. They blasphemed his name. See, you can't see the heart. People can't see someone else. The Father sees the heart perfectly. He can give you discernment to see things. But, in general, people don't think other people can see them. Their heart is hidden inside. Nobody can see the heart. And then they live like that, And it becomes puke, fake. And it just, spiritually, there's no tolerating certain things. It's just, no, you stand firm on whatever you believe. You don't cave into their teachings and their smooth words. This is a no and this is a no, period. You teach against the Scriptures, period. If this makes me not your friend, well then, too bad. Not going to compromise for the sake of convenience or sounding good or man's traditions and teachings. You know, and that's what I've been bringing up the fourth commandment a lot lately, is because when I see the enmity towards it, I know what's going on. It's not that that person can't, I don't know that they'll repent, but I know, I can see what's going on. It's impossible for someone that has the Spirit in them to hate the Father's own commandments, because the Spirit doesn't lead you to hate His own commandments. That would be insane. It doesn't happen. Mistakes happen, and all these things happen on our part. But you know what I'm saying in general, when someone resists the truth, like they resisted way back then, and like the Pharisees resisted the truth then, and like they resist the truth now, then something's not right spiritually. The whole thing's like a charade. It's a game. Said that a lot, and I can see it in the scriptures that it really is a game to people. That's why I don't like the classic debate stuff. Learn how to debate and talk like them. No, I don't want to do that. It's not happening. They can do that all they want. They can do it, and I'll let them do it. I'm not going to stop them. I'm not going to end up doing that or become that for the sake of someone wanting to see that. That doesn't mean anything to our Creator becoming a good debater. Moses couldn't speak very well, and our Creator pushed him along anyways. Too bad, Don't worry, I got it. You don't have to, just stop complaining and do it. He'll give you the words, and then He gave the people wisdom to build whatever He wanted them to build. And the world teaches that, church world teaches so much of it, that all this knowledge and everything came from the fallen angels, when the scripture says plainly, in plain sight, He gave them the wisdom and skills and ability to do what He requires. So He's requiring something, He'll give you the ability to do it, understand it. They just were given it. It was in them, whatever skill they had, given. It says the Father gives it to them, which contradicts like all of it coming from angels and stuff, fallen angels specifically. But it's not surprising that most people believe that. I don't, and that many people believe in these other contradicting books. It's like a spiritual trap to believe in these other things. Something else is usually wrong too, spiritually. It's fantastic. It's fascinating, But that's how the devil always comes across. Lust is fantastic and tempting, and it makes it sound like it's awesome. So it is with his own books, the devil's books. It's the same thing. It's like Hollywood. They know how to write a good book or movie, catches people, captivates them. And that's why people easily believe in these others, these other doctrines that angels were called sons, I guess. That's what they have to say. They have to contradict the scripture that says no angel has ever been called a son, ever, at any time. And yet they're claiming that's what Genesis says when it says sons of Elohim. They have to claim a contradiction for truth. They have to with that doctrine. They can't not. There's no other way. And over again, we're taught what sons of Elohim are. True believers, people. sons of the Father. And the Pharisees didn't like this. They didn't accept it. The Messiah exposed their hypocrisy. In your scriptures, don't you read, Pharisees? You're called Elohims. You're called gods. And now you have a problem with me calling myself son of Elohim, son of God. See the hypocrisy? In the scriptures you say you believe in, ye are called gods, because that means mighty ones. So some of the leaders, priests, would have been called, or judges, mighty ones. It doesn't mean that they're the Father, the Creator. This word has more meaning than it refers to the Father so many times, but it also has other instances where it's not referring to the Creator. Someone can be called an Elohim and not be the Father themselves, the God Creator, They didn't understand that. They thought he was prideful for calling himself son of Elohim. Even going back in Genesis, it says, then they began to call on the name of the Father. Has Lord there, which, his name. They called on his name. In Genesis, it says this. They began to call on his name. Isn't that what believers do? Isn't that what the sons of Elohim do? See, they didn't really believe this. They didn't have the understanding of what son of Elohim really is. So does most of religion understand that today? No. No. They even say opposite things, opposing things, like, what are you, Messiah? There's only one Messiah. You're not Messiah. You're not Jesus. You're not Christ. It's why they say those things that I look at. Why are they saying that? How could a true believer say something like that? And if it's a true believer, then they don't claim that they are the Messiah, the true one. They're not making that claim like they're, accusing. When you tell them that you're supposed to be just like him, same mind, same everything, this is the goal. And they don't like that. No, there's only one Messiah, and only he could do or say what he did. There's only one apostle, and there's only 12 disciples. And it was a special time at a special place, and now this no longer can, none of it can be. Why do they say and teach those things? Because they have to protect who and what they are, and they have to reject becoming what they're supposed to become by saying that. They don't even know what they're doing. They don't even know what they're saying. That's why they're saying it. They don't realize that's why they're saying it. It's because they don't want to be like Messiah. Even though they say they're believers, they don't want to be like Messiah or the disciples or apostle. This is why I've heard so many times, special time, special place. There's no disciples now. There's no apostles. There's no true believers. That's what they're really saying, which contradicts other teachings about them being believers and saying, brothers and sisters, all the believers today, and then they're teaching there is no true believers. Contradicting. The 12 disciples were an example of how it would be with his people. It's a picture. He calls them, and then they come, and then other people get called, and then they go away, but only a few stick by him. The rest walk away. If they were of us, they would remain with us. That verse. But they're not of us, so then they don't remain with us. So, spiritually speaking, that's what's going on. If they were truly of us, he wouldn't cast his sons away. They would have been with us then. But, there's something going on, spiritual wickedness in there, and they're not of us. And it's accepting that they don't know what they do really helps too. Not to hate people and stuff, because that could eat somebody away. So when that's happening, then you have to just pray about it. That's all. Say, I'm, tempted to do wickedness. Take it away. It's like, why do people have to hide? I don't hide who and what I am. I know that it's no good, and it wants to do no good, so I admit it. You know, and don't try to be righteous by myself. But they can't discern or rightly divide and the difference between my own righteousness and wanting to do my own works and think I'm good because of it, and wanting to do His will, keep His commandments. They can't discern between that. To want to keep His commandments is automatically to be prideful and self-righteous to them, even though that's what they are. But that's not. It can be wrong. It can be like Pharisees, but there's also a few that aren't like that. They just assume everyone's like that. They don't actually believe that there's any true believers. That's like the real spirit of it. And the Pharisees didn't believe it, that there were true believers either. I don't believe they did. When they saw it, they were frightened and angry because they didn't actually believe there was somebody that actually has truth, which is the Messiah, Father in Him, how to keep the commandments and how to teach them what they mean, how to live them the true way, and they were the false way. They didn't believe it. All these other divisions, they might not get along and stuff, but they could see each other for what they are. A lion sees that these are all other lions, and even if they're not together in one and divided, they're sort of one in a certain sense. Then a true believer comes along like Messiah, and all of them turn against Him. They all go in and become one now to go against Him because they didn't actually see any true believers anywhere. And it was very rare, that there was anyone that had any understanding. So there was like one Israelite, and Messiah said, "This is a true Israelite. There's no guile in him, within." And we got that verse like that. Why? Because there it is, one among thousands and thousands. There's one in all of Israel where there's no guile in him. So not very often is there someone that is converted within. That's the teaching. They're not spiritually converted. The Roman soldier was another one, I think. I don't know what happened after, but, he, out of all of them, there was one that says, truly, this is the Son of Elohim, the Father. He was what he said he was. True prophet, a true Messiah, true believer. And the other ones, I think, safely assume they didn't believe that. They just sort of like just getting dirty work done and moving along. Next, we just killed another sloth. Next, like no love or care at all. And something struck him as this must have been truly what Scripture say, what Father says, who He is. This must have been Him. So this doesn't happen very often. In Josephus, there's 6,000, supposedly, according to him, Pharisees. I don't know for sure. This is just in the historian Josephus. There's roughly 6,000 of them, and I think it helps some of the history. It gives you a better picture if it's something like that. It wasn't just like 5 or 10 of them that he spoke to over and over again. There were a few thousand, a few thousand of them, leaders like this. And he would have battled with them every single day and night, with crowds pressing on him, which the movies never get right. And the reason why he goes on a ship or a mountain is probably to get away from everyone for a little bit, because it can drive a person mad. But this is blasphemy. I can't talk like that. That's what he did, because being around groups of people for a very long time, all around you, You can only take so much. Then you need to just be quiet somewhere for a little bit. You need a break. So he needed it because, this was happening every day, I would imagine. Crowds, whether they were there to trap him or true believers or people they didn't really know. I don't know if he's true, but this is interesting. He's healing people. Whoops. I just pressed my steering wheel button and it started playing some Christmas music. Scared me. So then, yeah, I've only seen like in my life like a couple like movies, but they don't really portray it right. And obviously the long hair and white and whatever blue eyes, they don't get anything right. It is not likely he had the hair of a woman. I'd say even impossible. Um, the only people that would have done that, true believers in Israel, is to like take a Nazarite vow. Otherwise, no, not. He didn't have the hair of a woman. You know what I'm saying? And they give him that. So even like the outwardly appearance, they like spit on him where they can. Paul says it's even nature shows, or that's a shame for a man to have like the hair of a woman. Now, I don't know where that. That's one of the things that I wanted to look into, like in scripture specifically, and I don't know that I've found it yet. I haven't looked super hard either, or if this was just Paul's wisdom, something good to follow, but not necessarily a law. I'm not sure on, but I do believe that Messiah didn't have what they give him. This is another Messiah that they represent. So it's not just a physical or spiritually, it's another Messiah they present. The one that didn't keep the commandments. And I say that because I don't think they would actually say that. But the way they live and the way they teach that Messiah taught is he didn't keep all the commandments. And the scriptures just say flat out, he broke the Sabbath day, but this was obviously from the people's perspective that hated him and wanted him to break things and sin. It just says whatever they were believing in God. That's why it says that. He broke the Sabbath day. It says that. He obviously didn't. But, this is from the people's perspective. They said it. They believed he broke it when they themselves weren't keeping it right. There might be another example with that too, something about him breaking something that he actually didn't. And there's examples of their hypocrisy with David in the temple and everything, in the scriptures. So like to point a finger at him, it's hypocritical because look what's in the scriptures, They were really stuck up on that work, Don't work, can't do anything, can't move your finger. Then he exposed their hypocrisy and say you have to circumcise a child on the 8th day according to the law of Moses, so that the scriptures aren't broken. And that does land on the Sabbath day sometimes. So then what? Oops. Isn't that a little contradicting what they were saying? Hypocritical. They ended up circumcising kids on the Sabbath day, which is like a work, so that they don't break the law, and yet they're breaking it. So there's certain exceptions, and that's what he taught you and pointed out their hypocrisy. It's lawful to do good on the Sabbath day, cutting off the flesh, teaching good things, it's lawful to do good. And they didn't really see that or care about it. It was just literally reduced to rules, and that's all they cared about. And that when that happens, then it's no good. Then it's not good at all. There's like the true way of doing it, and there's the false way, where it's not just the rules, it's because you want to do what's right, and you're rewarded for doing what's right, from the heart. You test the heart. If someone's not doing it from the heart, well, then they're not given. They're not given. They don't get. They don't receive. This is why I think all the people that make lots of money being preachers, instead of give as you were freely given, I question whether they were ever given anything. That's why they can't give it freely back. They were never given anything freely. They just pretend, they say we're righteous and we're good and we don't need any healing. See, that's exactly what Messiah came against the people for. I didn't come to heal righteous people like all of you guys, I came to heal sinners, and everyone's a sinner, but, these people are already righteous in their own eyes. And they really, truly believe that. That's the difference. They really believed in their heart that they're good people, righteous people, because of what they do and their choices and everything. And all along, their hearts are no good. So it's like a form of mockery there, a taunting, So the Father, through the prophets, spoke dark sayings, parables, and then the Messiah did the same because he has the Father in him. He's going to do and say the Father's words. How he does it, he also does it. So he spoke in parables because the Father spoke in parables through the prophets so many times. There are parables in the Scriptures, not just in the New Testament. Proverbs is one example. It means parable. These are teachings, parables, that can't all just automatically be taken literally. They have a spiritual meaning behind them, or some kind of wisdom or knowledge, how to live. Parables. And there's parables of pride. The two most common ones are in Isaiah and Ezekiel. This is where they get their doctrine from. That contradicts the devil was a liar and a murderer from the beginning, Messiah's words. And then that's 2 or 3 times in Scripture, second and third witness. From the beginning, right at the beginning. There's the serpent. Here's the example. He was created as serpent and was a deceiver from the beginning. So there's the teaching. It's not a smooth teaching. That means the Creator created him, or created evil, like we do read, for a purpose. And they can't teach this because it doesn't flow with all of their other doctrines. It breaks them all. So they have to say, like, Satan created evil, Mankind created evil by their own fall. I get what they're saying, but it's not right. They don't believe that a Creator creates all things. Romans 8 and 9, I always go back to there to tell people to read them, because Paul is saying this is what the Scriptures mean. This is what you read in Genesis, Exodus, Leviticus. This is the teaching. He just gives it out plainly. They don't believe Romans 8 and 9. That all of creation was purposed, ultimately, to be what it is. The creation did not willingly go into futility. It's not of its own will, but because of his will, who willed it to be, futility, vanity. It says that plainly, boldly. It wasn't our will. It's ultimately the Father's will and plan and purpose that he made it to be the way it is. And I suppose someone doesn't have to like it all, they're going to struggle with that. But acknowledge it at least. Everything comes from him. Whatever he gives, he takes away. The Father does that. So Job says, after all of it's done, the Father, his name, says Lord there, gave and he took away. He gave and took away. Didn't say Satan took away. The Father ultimately does this. This is ultimate authority and sovereignty that people don't like or want to hear or believe. Just like kids don't want their parents to be sovereign and in control because they're their parents. So the family structure, even like gives us that to expose hypocrisy too. How come they don't apply that with their own kids? How come it's okay to be sovereign then over your own kids, but it's not okay for the Creator to be sovereign over you? Then it's not okay all of a sudden. It's hypocrisy. The parents give them life, right? So they're parents. They can set the rules and judge as they see fit, the best they know how, like we even read. So then how much more can the Creator do that with his creation? What's the excuse there? If parents do that because they gave them life, then how about the Creator then, who gives, ultimately all people life? Now, I'm not making things up. They really do reject the teaching in Romans 8 and 9. They don't like it. They don't really believe in the foreknowledge, in the true teaching of that, his sovereignty and foreknowledge. He chooses whom he chooses because he can. They would be glad. They would be happy to believe that truth, that he had mercy on them, but they're angry instead, which is telling me something, they don't have the Father in them. Something's not right. He must have not chose them at this point in time to see truth, because they should be happy about it. Why choose me, a wretched nobody, out of billions of people, and you give me understanding? Why? Because I was such a good kid, no, it's not because we were good or better than other people. It's nonsense. It really is by his own grace, because, whatever other reasons we're not aware of, but it's definitely not because we're better than some other person. He chooses the poor, nothings, nobodies, unpopular people of this world most of the time. There's going to be some exceptions, but I don't think very many, though. And Paul says, look around. Look what's going on here. Can't you see that these are a bunch of nobodies in this world? Not super smart, maybe not too good looking overall, or definitely not rich and famous. Take a look around. He was telling them, he chooses the nothings, the nobodies in this world. They throw this true teaching in the trash, though, because they don't believe in the sovereignty of the Father. They don't, this is evil to them, because they don't see the purpose and plan for all creation, which is to bring it back, which is to get it out of the bondage of corruption. They don't see that plan and purpose, so to them it's evil. But, in the meantime, torturing people with no end is not evil. And they insist on that. They won't back down. And I've tried it. I spoke with them. They don't back down. They stick with what they believe and say until something, until the Father wakes them up. Otherwise, they're sticking to it. I think I'm going to end it here. Let's see. So that wasn't a very good job of a short video again, but and that maybe repeated a lot. So I'll try not to do that too much for the last video or two. But it's a big difference, though, between the true believer and not. The difference is wanting to keep his commandments and the other one's finding excuses how not to. That's the difference. Not out of some weird self-righteous, prideful thing. If that starts becoming like that, then that needs to be corrected. It's no good, but because they want to keep it. And not keeping his way is no good for anybody. So it's for our benefit, too. So ultimately, his intentions are, for ultimate good benefit that I don't think very many people see, Shows the character. It's not to regulate you and control you and all this stuff. It's because this is the way it is. There's evil and then there's good. Now, if you do the evil things that I say are evil, then you're going to be trapped by evil, and pay the consequences of it. If you do what's right, keep his commandments, then you'll be blessed by it. And scriptures teach blessings or cursing for his people this day. They don't believe this is in effect, because they're not spiritual. They don't know what spiritual blessing is. Or your treasures are in heaven, store up treasures in heaven. These are spiritual blessings now, and I believe for the future too. I think it really means both. That they don't see, because that takes a little too much faith, I think, to believe that actually, To not love this world takes a little bit too much faith to give up this world, like loving it, in the heart, loving money with the heart. I brought up strange things that they say. They'll bring up Abraham, Like I said, I think I have the understanding on why they do that and what they're not seeing. They're comparing Abraham as an example of receiving blessings or having more things, which, he did. But they're not seeing the spiritual meaning of that. It's the example of someone receiving those spiritual blessings. Messiah didn't have physically what Abraham had. He was more so, I guess, poor, or definitely not rich. But he had spiritual blessings and gifts beyond, anyone above, in abundance. So when they bring up somebody like that, Abraham, it's not comparing spiritual with spiritual. It's not doing that. They're not doing that right. There is a such thing as comparing spiritual with spiritual, because his words are spirit, so there's spiritual meaning to everything. And it's a contradiction too. The gospel of prosperity is a contradiction to all of Messiah's words and so many other scriptures. To want that, to seek that, to become rich in this world physically like Abraham is a contradiction to so many scriptures. So it's a lack of seeing something. That's why. It's not because there's an actual contradiction there. He's the example of receiving spiritual blessings, but more so in a natural way, almost like a natural way of what that means. Natural Israel. Then there's spiritual Israel. There's Old Jerusalem, and then there's New Jerusalem. One is from above, and one is lowly, from the earth, carnal. religion's from the earth, it's carnal. That's the difference between being born again from above and not. Spiritual, carnal. It really is reduced to that. And the world has its own weird definition of spiritual, love, sort of similar to like the two commandments. It's almost very similar to how they treat it. Like Christianity's definition of love the Father, love your neighbor, sort of like the world's definition almost. Don't love or care of truth. They really do believe they're good, nice people, and that makes them righteous. They actually believe that. They won't ever admit it. They won't ever tell you, but they truly believe that's what makes them righteous. What they do and their own choices and what they teach, If this weren't so, then we wouldn't read it. That's all the Pharisees were. The example over and over and over again in Scripture of that. Prideful people, Donkey speaking to the man, to the mad prophet, out of his mind, prideful, corrected by donkey, out of all things, like a donkey, a nobody, just a stupid donkey, if you want to say that. So maybe that's telling us something, that people that end up being really prideful, the nobodies in this world are going to put them to shame, correct them. The donkeys are going to correct them, or judge them. And Paul's like speaking to them as if they already should know who they are. Know ye not, you shall judge the world, judge messengers. I suppose they didn't know, maybe. Or if they heard those words, they didn't sink in, they didn't really see or believe them. And if they couldn't even judge the smallest little things, then how on earth are they going to do the bigger things pertaining to life? So when someone says, what are you, a judge now? Well, in a twisted way, yeah. I mean, they're not getting it. And you give them that scripture, and they sort of just huff and puff and laugh and mock it. You give quotes right from the scripture that just at the right time to teach a true teaching, and yeah, kind of that attitude, because they don't believe it. A living example of it is not possible for a man to be subjected to his law. Man's not even able to. So that's where I'm going to end it. If someone could get to the point of just acknowledging that they can't do that, just seeing who and what they are, that's all. Then they'll gain understanding when they actually fear the Creator and deny themselves. Otherwise, those that are not born from above have no fear in their eyes. It's literally like a little kid trash talking their parents, and there's no fear in their eyes. It's going to turn around on them someday. That no fear is going to turn into some kind of fear. Pretty much has to. This is why they know not what they do. They're little tiny creatures on the earth, and we all don't know anything. Only what we've heard other people say or taught in school, and we have to learn the scriptures and be taught by our Creator. And we start out with knowing nothing, and then they have the guts to blaspheme or talk back rebellious to the bitter end, like a Pharaoh, or any other king that got prideful and, fell spiritually because of their pride. They talk about this devil falling from pride, which is very interesting because I always see that it's talking about themselves because that's what the teaching is. It's about everyone, all people. They were up high on the rubies and everything, and then he fell. This king fell from the pride, from heaven, and the Messiah teaches the same thing. Capernaum was raised up to heaven, and then it's dragged down to Hades, to the earth, to the grave. The city didn't literally go up and then crash down. That's not what he's saying. The city was prideful, but how great its fall is inevitable. You are up high now, like a king. You're way up in the air, and you're going to fall. It's going to be a hard fall. It's going to be scary. This is what it's like spiritually. This is the parable. And they talk about some devil that used to be perfect when Messiah says he was a liar and murderer from the beginning, There's no truth in him. So then if people worship the devil, like he said, your father is the devil, and him you will serve. This is what you will do. It's a statement of fact. He told them, you will do this. You will worship him. So then they become like their father, which means no truth in them. There's no truth in them. And they like to mix truth with lies, which counts for no truth in them. When somebody mixes truth and lies, that's a lie still. But you could say there's no truth in them. It's true. And then there's the Creator, the Father, who has no darkness in him, who's only light, doesn't have evil, devilish intentions. It's not even in him. It's nowhere to be around him. Then those that believe in him become more like him instead of, the devil and a beastly, carnal beast, creating beast kingdoms that revolves around breaking the commandments and doing the 180. That's what the kingdoms of this world does. It does 180. And it masquerades as an angel of light, never forget it. This is what that nice is. Oh, he's nice. Or this such and such is nice. This is nice. This world is nice, and it's good in general. Because it masquerades as an angel of light, that's why. It's not nice. It's not good spiritually. And it doesn't change because the words are, love not the world or any of the things in it. Because, why? Because it's against the Creator's will, all of it, all 180, with evil intentions. So if someone loves the world now or 500 years ago, those words are always true. They never go away. Then that means they love this world. That means it's just showing them who they are, that's all. You have to be a devil to love the devil's world. Isn't that what he's teaching? And that's all. I'm going to end it here. Please question everything. And don't let people trap you. Messiah knew how to answer rightly. So people, true believers can learn how to answer rightly at the right time, what to say, what not to say to people, anybody. There's always going to be someone trying to trap people, That's their intentions. And I've seen it so many times face to face that it blows my mind that that's actually what they're doing. And then they don't ever admit that that's what they're doing. Then they start crying and screaming. I'm exaggerating a little. crying and screaming, begging, this is not me, this is not what I'm doing. You've seen it in the movies. You have to lie. You literally end up believing your own lies so you don't go to prison, or so you don't look like this, or you don't do that, or whatever, so no bad thing happens to you. You do this in the movies all the time. They literally act out because they're trapped. The beast has been caught. The tiger's been cornered. Now he needs to attack. And the only way he can attack at this moment is pretend that he's not a beast. That's all. Deny everything. I swear, swear to God, swear to, on their mother's grave. And they're just lying. You know what I'm talking about. We've all seen it, I think. And they're just lying because they have to lie. And then they sort of like, they're so convinced they actually believe their own lies and actually get angry when someone doesn't believe them. Scary, man. Scary how often this happens. Everyone's done it, but people continue to do it. That's the difference without seeing it. Every liar will have their part in like a fire, so everyone's lying all the time, That needs to be overcome. These are the details. These are the things, the weightier things that they don't care about. See, do you lie 10 times a week, 20 times a week? Do you lie? Is that what's talked about? Is that the focus? No, it's usually just some contradicting doctrine. It's never about real things or weightier things or true spiritual things. Who's going to acknowledge that they lie? Like, oh, I didn't lie. Oh, no, I didn't lie last week. Chances are you did. Chances are everyone did. So the beast always will protect itself and defend itself. The difference is just owning up to it. I'm a sinner. Own up to it instead of beat your chest and then pretend not to be what they are. I'm not like that, as they beat their chest. Definitely not like that. I'm so much better. And then they're not better. They're the same. So that's the difference. Humble or humility, they really believe that they got a problem. That they're a beast spiritually. They're breaking commandments. They're monsters. And then they admit they're monsters. And then, that's what the Creator leads his people to do. In the meantime, the rest of humanity can't truly acknowledge that. It's not possible. And religion is so slippery because it looks like that it is possible. Like that's what they're doing. They're not. They're just hiding. They're just covered in darkness. They're hiding. Messiah didn't hide. He did everything in the open and spoke openly. They did all their stuff in the dark, in the secret, all their sins and who and what they are. They hide in darkness. They didn't come out to be exposed by the light. So it's like specifically about religion, false religion, man's religion. Man would rather hide in darkness than come out to the light. The religious people, they hide in darkness. Not just, it's already a given, unbelievers do, everyone does. Religious people do this. False religion. True religion is keeping the commandments, One example of it is helping somebody when they need something and doing it with good intentions, not because there's 1,000 people watching. Look how good I am. That's called true religion. When nobody's watching, you're doing what's right. In the meantime, we got people on YouTube making videos about how good they are, and they give gifts to random people on the street, and then they get millions of views about, exactly what they're told not to do. Don't do this. Don't show off with your good works and how good you are. Don't do that. And they do. They do that. Is the world going to look at you as the evil and crazy one by exposing that? saying, man, you're evil. You're just jealous you're not him, the world is obviously going to be on the side of the worldly person, because when it comes to Father's truth, they gang up all of a sudden. They're all one, so they can point the finger at the true teaching. They don't like it. He said not to do that. Don't show off. Don't do all this out in the open. Um, they fast, and even when they fast, they make themselves look like they're fasting, and they tell people about it, and look how much I'm fasting and all this. All their intentions, man. Those are evil, bad things. Because why? Because it's centered on self. That's why. It's all about self, and that's what the devil is all about. It's selfish. Gets you to become feeds that beast, selfishness. And the Father is the opposite. He's giving constantly, giving people all kinds of things, and then to be like Him, you need to, do the same things, become like Him. So when you don't give freely, when you do it with foul intentions, then it's disgusting because that's not who the Father is. All right, now I'll end it. So peace.